Yeah, shaky. Yeah, 6 o'clock. Yeah, yeah. Oh yes, I love that tune when it comes to the end. Dun dun dun. Hello, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. And yeah, we're definitely on time today. 20, yes, 9:30. We got the wonderful Mr. Memphis.
Hello again.
Yeah, hello again. Yeah, yes, he's been singing today. Yes, he was been singing today. Now, what have you been doing today, there, Mark?
Did my first gig in nearly 7 months, a pub in Bradford, and it was very enjoyable. And as usual, I gave it everything I had. And my voice is a little hoarse. So if you've got any sugar lumps,
Right. So if you've got the sugar lumps, then he wants some. And if you've got any hay, because he was a bit hoarse, let me know. I'm gonna pass them on to him. Anyway, Mark, I want to talk about something tonight about anxiety. How about that?
yeah, okay.
Yeah, anxiety and panic attacks.
Ooh,
You're not getting a panic attack now, are you?
no, I feel very comfortable and I feel very safe. So no
Okay,
panic attacks.
okay, right. Forget about the 9-9 ambulance. It's all right. Right, okay. So what I'm going to talk about really is because I used to suffer with really, really bad kind of panic attacks.
Hmm.
Right, I used to sit here, kind of like I used to sit here, and all of a sudden I could thinking that I'm dying, and I used to say to my wife, "Can you have a look at me?" And she goes, "Do I have to?" You know what I mean? You know,
Does anybody have to? But anyway, carry on.
Mr. Memphis,
Yeah.
right? Behave yourself. But the trouble is, so see, shut up. No, stop! Don't stop my wife off. Now the trouble is, panic attacks. Now the trouble is, I suffer with panic attacks. And what she used to do, she used to look at. I used to say, "Can you look at me, see if I'm going red or panicky and all that lot?" And she said, "No, you're all right. No, you're all right." And I really used to get these really bad panic attacks. Have you ever suffered with panic attacks?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, anxiety is probably a closer companion to me than depression, to be honest with you. And I, I've had it. I've had mild panic attacks, and I've had very, very severe panic attacks to the point where, like you just said there, where especially when it's a new thing, it's very, very frightening because you can't breathe, and you go into a mental state which is exaggerated almost. You're convinced you're going to die. Um, the room is swirling around you. You can't really grasp on to anything to give you a sense of reason. I've had those sort of panic attacks. Um, I haven't had one for quite a while, to be honest with you. But get um, I do get anxious from time to time. I spoke last week about I did a month's worth of shopping. Were it last week or the week before? And I got to the checkout and I just got totally overwhelmed with what I'd done, and the sweat was pouring off me. And that's normally the symptom that I have when I'm when anxiety really kicks in and I'm starting to panic, I actually sweat quite a lot. I don't think I go blotchy or anything like that. I think that's the telltale physical symptom that I have. But yeah, they're not pleasant things, and they're very, very, very frightening. Especially like say when you don't know. It's like your first migraine. You don't know what the hell's happening. Your vision's going, and you're thinking, "Am I going blind? What's this?" And you're feeling dizzy and everything. So, and panic attacks. I think most people are convinced that they're going to die. That seems to be the common description that people have of that sensation.
Yeah. I've been in bed, and when I'm in bed, and all of a sudden I got up all of a sudden, and I was just gasping for air, and I was waking my wife up. I said, "Am I all right? Am I all right?" And she said, "Yeah, go back to sleep again." Things like that. But the trouble is, your heart's racing. You're sweating. It's like I could go shopping, Mark, and I could go into a superstore. But the trouble is, my wife will tell you, I've got to get back out again after 5 minutes because I can't handle it being in there.
Mm-hmm. I fully understand that. I can be like that as well. It's almost like a heightened state of cabin fever. You just have to get out, and it becomes irrational. That need to escape to safety, to just to remove yourself. And again, that is like the thing when you're having the panic attack. Mentally, you can't latch onto a sense of reason, which will tell you you're okay. Actually, there's nothing to be worried about. There's nothing to be frightened of because you're just so caught up in that whirlwind of whatever it is that's unsettling you.
Yeah, yep. Let's watch this video.
Okay.
The first time that I experienced probably 12 years ago, I get the shakes. I'd be sitting at work and I'd physically, the hands would be shaking, so I'd sit on my hand.
I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what I was thinking. I didn't know what I was feeling, and I didn't know. I was more like, why am I thinking this? Why am I feeling like this?
When I feel at my worst, shut myself in, and I don't want to talk to anyone. I can't even answer the phone or anything.
I felt like I was going to die every day. The symptoms, my heart palpitations, just get stomach pains, pins and needles down the finger, headaches. For me, it was just about getting through the day.
What I did a lot of the time before I found coping mechanisms, which was to seek constant reassurance.
Yeah, all the time. I think that's one of the main things about anxiety.
Did you find it made you better?
Yes, it did.
All the time?
Not all the time. It did for about 10 seconds,
Right.
and I'll have something else wrong there, and then I've got to get reassurance again.
I spent most of my life seeking reassurance from others. Like you say, if a health anxiety problem, yes. Yeah, and you get kind of temporary relief. It's like a bit of a drug fix. It goes away for a bit, and then it comes back. So you have to find longer-term coping mechanisms.
It's like a short-term solution to a long-term problem.
Last year, one of the things that I identified with perfection was a minimum standard for me. It wasn't a goal, and that's what it should be. It should be a goal. Perfection, yeah, aim high, but don't set it as the minimum, because that really is what can trigger an awful lot of anxiety.
Worst thing to do as well is, say if you've got heart palpitations or like I used to get lumps in the throat, do not look up the symptoms on the internet.
Oh, absolutely.
Do not do that, because that is a no-go.
Now, see, they were just talking about. Sorry about the sound, guys. By the way, the sound's a bit low. I'm sorry about that. But you can see, Mark, when they were talking about heart palpitations and, your heart goes fast and you kind of like, you're really kind of like in a kind of, sometimes you can be in a right daze or something and you kind of be panicking, you can be worrying and, and people say, they used to say to me, "Are you worried about something?" And sometimes it can be true because sometimes we might be worrying about something, and that's why the anxiety comes in, the panic attack comes in. Do you agree?
Yeah. And you can also be subconsciously worrying about something. It can be, you know, like if you're self-employed, you might be worrying about how you're going to pay the rent later on in the month. And you might not even be actually thinking about it there and then, but it's something that is totally, it's almost like an elephant in the room. That's just one example. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But sometimes, though, I think, we all get panic attacks. When people get panic attacks, they think, oh well, this is the end of the world. I'm going to die. This, I can't cope with this. And they and it's there, and they could have it for a while, and they could go to the doctor, and the doctor say, yeah, okay, you're just suffering with panic attacks. We give you something to sleep, but sometimes that doesn't even work.
Yeah. It can be a build-up of many things as well, because it's from what I understand, it's like it's almost like an assault on your nervous system. So if you are, you could have a number of things which are going on, and it's almost like a straw placed onto a camel's back, and then another straw, and eventually one straw will break the camel's back, as the old proverb goes. And it can be something like that as well. I had that. That's when I had the really severe panic attacks, which was 11 years ago. I had quite a few things going on at that time. I had a son who was 1 year old, who was my everything, and he still is. But I started imagining really, really sort of like horrible things, were going to happen to him. I was, I used to have these really vivid visions of him, of him dying, basically. That was based on nothing. I wasn't unhappy about him. I wasn't unhappy about the fact I was a dad at 40. But there was that. I'd started being a self-employed singer. I wasn't getting much bookings because I was doing Elvis, and I've spoken to you before about this. The most, impersonated singer ever. You're on a hide into nothing, really, if you're going to be an Elvis tribute. So the work wasn't there like I thought it was. There were a few pressures at home, which eventually led to me divorcing my first wife. But all these things were going on, and one day I just struggled, and I thought I was going to die, and it was all these things.
Yeah. With your when you, I'm not trying to be kind of like nosy and nothing like that, but when you kind of like when your divorce ended, did you think it was like, oh well, I'm going to give up? Do you feel depressed, suicidal, or
when with the divorce? No, because it was more the fact the marriage had ended. It was me that instigated the end of that. I walked out on that marriage. The problems I had were sort of like a little bit further down the line. It was to do with child contact, that old, the old cliches that some dads have to go through, sadly. They're kept away from the kids, and they have to jump through hoops in court and all the rest of it. That was, that was the problem. The actual, but the pressures leading up to that was certainly very, very intense. And like I said, I had quite a few things going on, which probably in their own right would have been enough to, to do anybody's head in. And it was just this thing, like I say, where it was one thing after another, and it started manifesting itself, like I say, into me having these really, horrible visions of my son. I was imagining going in and finding him dead in his cot, and that was all part of the anxiety and the panic attacks. I was catastrophizing everything. You know, and I've spoken to you before about buses being late, things like that used to really, really tip me over the edge. And you know, I can be rational about it now and say, you know, what's the worst that can happen if the bus is late?
I've been through. I've been to court for access for my children, and I can feel where you've been, because you know it's really terrible when you kind of like got to go to court because your wife can't agree on to, you know, your ex-partner can't agree, you know, for the children's sake, or what they're worried about. Really, your partner is worried about themselves. They're not worried about the child. They're just worried about, like, you know, if they're in another relationship with somebody else, you know, they're saying, well, I'm in a relationship with you now, you know, so that they can, you know, their dad can go to, well, they, stop from seeing your child. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, the fact that I wasn't seeing, because I've got two sons. You know, the son I'm talking about, who I had the visions about, he's got a brother who's 2 years younger. But you know, the main problem that I had was that I was like the stay-at-home dad, and I was with my eldest son day in, day out, minute in, minute out. I was with him the whole time, and to have that taken away, you know, just because I was not a mum or a mother, the court, you know, really it should have been me that should have had custody. You know, I should have been the resident parent, because I was the one that stayed at home and did all the mother things. But you know, we're still stuck, I think, in the 19th century as far as family courts are concerned, to some degree, where the mother is the woman. You know, but that's a discussion for another day.
I'll talk to you about that, actually, because you know I've been through all that, and I've been, you know, father's rights and things like that. I know someone who deals with that, and I probably ask them to come on at the same time. But the trouble is, though, things like that, you know, when we go through, like, when we go for custody or access for our children, can be really stressful. You know, we turn up at court and they can lie about it, saying, well, they're no good. He used to get drunk or something, or he used to kind of like, he never used to worry about, you know, never used to keep the kids clean, you know, and really they're just doing it for themselves and not actually doing it for the children, not actually looking after the children, are they?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's a discussion for another day, but my advice to any father that's embarking on that whole horrible, draining, stressful family court journey, just keep it about the kids, no matter what you think about the mother and what she's saying. You just talk about how important the children are and how important it is for the kids to see you. You know, it's a nasty, horrible thing. And it was horrible for me personally, not just because I wasn't seeing my children. I had my own mental health put under a microscope. There were accusations made that I was, because I was depressed. My ex made accusations that I might harm the children. I might do something foolish and take the children with me. Absolutely ridiculous. But I had to go and see a forensic psychologist to discredit that view. All that came out of that, I think I said it last week, is I was depressed, and I was depressed because of the lack of contact with my children. It's all sorted out now.
I went into a psychiatric unit for depression. I told you about this, and it's all in my story in the press and everything. I went in the psychiatric unit, and because I was depressed and trying to kill myself because there was things going on in my life, that was put against me, and they said I wasn't fit enough to look after my kids. Right? Then that's what she put against me. Then I had to have a welfare report sorted out and They used back then they called it a welfare report.
Yeah.
Where, and but anyway, that's another story about that. But why I brought that up for about the children and everything is sometimes we do get sometimes get panic attacks about our own family, our children, what's happening with them, and we go into a certain state with anxiety because we're thinking, things are kind of like, it's really hard for somebody who has panic attacks and anxiety to kind of sometimes be the norm, say.
Yeah.
It's
No,
really,
right.
it's really difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you look at the way the world is, and you just think to yourself, "Have I done the right thing bringing children into this world?" That's not really a question you should be asking yourself, because it's the most natural and perfect thing to do, is to bring children into the world. It's a circle of life, as Elton John once said. But that is what life is about, and all the way through the ages, life has had its dangers, and life has had its terrible things going on in the background, and it always will.
Yeah, that's it. Let's watch this video,
Okay.
and hopefully the sun will be all right on this one.
Sponsored by our friends over at Hollywood Health and Society. Thanks, guys. Hey there. Welcome to Life Noggin. Have you ever suddenly, for no reason, feared you were going to die? Or sensed impending danger? Or felt a detachment from yourself? These scary but very real experiences are symptoms of a panic attack. The intense fear experienced during these attacks also cause physical reactions in the body, such as chest pain, nausea, dizziness, shortness of breath, sweating, numbness in the extremities, and a racing heartbeat. Panic attacks share a lot of similar symptoms with anxiety attacks, but there are some key differences in how they occur. Anxiety attacks are a response to a certain trigger or a perceived threat. After a period of excessive worry, symptoms build up slowly, but are generally not that severe. They can last for days or even months. Panic attacks, on the other hand, happen very quickly. They can last a few minutes or up to a couple of hours, and can either occur out of nowhere or be caused by a trigger such as stress, substance withdrawal, phobias, or remembering past traumas. They are much more intense and can make someone feel like they have lost control or that death is imminent. People affected by panic attacks may have just one or two before the cause is resolved, or may experience recurring attacks. Due to the intense fear they experience, some people live in constant fear of having another attack, which is the definition of panic disorder. But panic attacks can result from other psychological disorders as well, like social anxiety, phobias, or obsessive-compulsive disorders. Scientists are still unsure of the exact cause of panic disorder, but some theorize it may be the result of an overactive amygdala signaling for the release of adrenaline. Adrenaline causes several physiological changes. It increases your heart rate to send more blood to your muscles, makes you breathe faster and more shallow to create more oxygen and make you more alert, and releases blood sugar and fats to give you more energy. Together, these changes prepare you to deal with a life-threatening situation and are often thought of as your fight or flight response. The resulting physical reactions are similar to what happens during a panic attack, which is why scientists believe that the fight or flight response is involved. If you do suffer from panic attacks, you are not alone. An estimated 4.7% of adults in the US above the age of 18 will experience panic disorder in their lifetime. And of adolescents between the ages of 13 and 18, 2.3% will. That's about 12 million adults and teens in the United States alone who will suffer from panic attacks. But I have good news. Panic disorder is treatable. Therapy and medication help reduce the frequency and intensity of panic attacks. A 1992 study on the effect of cognitive behavior therapy found that 82% of patients were panic-free after 8 weeks of treatment. And 6 months later, 63% were considered in recovery. So if you're suffering from panic attacks or a related illness, don't be afraid to reach out for help. This condition does not need to be debilitating. People who experience panic attacks are normal, everyday people who are able to work at their jobs and live their lives. Links to free resources are down in the description below. So are you someone who suffers from panic attacks? If you have a story that you're comfortable with sharing, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much to our friends over at Hollywood Health Society who sponsored this video. To find out more,
There you go. Well,
Yep. There is, as far as I'm concerned anyway, there is a very, very clear difference between anxiety attacks and panic attacks. The anxiety aspect of it, like I say, it is like a constant companion, really, to me. It's something that I have to work quite hard to keep at bay. And that video there also mentioned cognitive behavior therapy, which I've spoken about with you before. That is very, very, very useful.
yeah.
And it's and for anybody that's thinking of going for that or asking for it, it's important to not expect immediate results, because what that does is what I find anyway, or what I found, is that you have to sort of like use your brain in a different way. You have to process things that are going on in a different way. And at first I thought, I've done 6 sessions of this and I don't feel any different. But you just put things into practice, and you just ask yourself, what's the worst that will happen? I've left the house with 2 odd socks on. So what? But before, that could have been something that would have tipped me over the edge. It's very, cognitive behavior therapy is very, very useful. But it's something that's not apparently obvious straight away.
And also, it's not a quick fix, is it? It's done over time. And the trouble is, everybody is different, isn't they, for their own therapy?
Yeah.
I mean,
so the fact that you do have the tools to cope with life anyway. We all have them. We've all been given them at birth, but some of us tend to allow things to distract us from what we've actually got, and you forget about certain things, and then you learn through habit to react in certain ways, to think in a certain way, which aren't necessarily very good for you. And it's all about re-educating yourself, like I say, and it does take practice, because what you're doing is it's almost like somehow you've conditioned yourself to think a certain way, and you have to undo that and condition yourself to think in a different way. And it does take a lot of practice, but it is possible from somebody like me, which who's a very anxious, worried person at the best of times. For me to actually say that works, and it's not a waste of time. That's quite something, really.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and the healing process of anything, it takes time, because we're all different. And at the end of the day, therapy, can take a month, or it could take years. But at the end of the day, if we keep on, kind of like getting that therapy and getting that help, finally, hopefully, we'll come to that stage where that we don't need therapy no more.
And the other thing as well with therapy is it's we're human beings. We're not like one size fits all.
Yeah.
We've all got different ways, different processes of thought, and I think I've had about 6 different courses of therapy in the last 11 years, and there's different kinds of therapy, and there's 2 sets of therapy that I've had, which were both 6-week things. And to be honest with you, they were, I can look back on them and say they were a waste of time. It was just me sitting in a room talking about how upset I was or how depressed I was. Because a good therapist isn't going to tell you how to think. You're going to actually hear the answers that you need through your own responses when they'll ask you to tell you how a certain thing made you feel. Sometimes you feel, you hear yourself talking about things like falling apart when a bus is late, and you just think, what the hell? You know, what was that about? You know, that's ridiculous. So not all therapy necessarily is the answer. That you know, but you can only, it's like medication, depression medication. You might have to try 2 or 3 different sorts before you actually find the medication that works for you. Because some medication has side effects which could be very, very bad for you. I was put on beta blockers at one time, and I had to come off them because they were making me breathless and they were making my throat dry. And as a singer, that's like the worst. That was like the worst side effects I could have had. You know, so I've tried different medication and I've tried different therapy, and you do eventually come across one that works for you.
Yeah, you certainly do. Mark, thank you very much once again.
No, pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, don't forget, guys, to kind of like follow Mark Memphis wherever he goes. He's not here next week, but the following week he will be. Also, guys, tomorrow we got more shows tomorrow. I think we got another 3 or 4 shows again. If you ever want to come on, let us know. We are filling up very quickly now for June. I mean, June is nearly, you know, we're going through about the 3rd week in June at the moment, so we're doing quite well on that at the moment. So anyway, thank you very much for watching again. And if you've got any comments, leave them in the box. I see we have got a few comments here at the moment, but yeah, we will do. We can do that for you. We will send you out some leaflets and information to you. That's not a problem. Okay. And also, if you are listening on the radio at this moment in time, can I just tell you that we have got 2 therapists, our own counselors, who works with me on these when we do chats like this, and they are available anytime to talk to. So all you got to do is just come on to leave me a message on Crossroads Podcast or on here, and we will get somebody to talk to you. It's not a problem. You know, it's day or night. We are here for you, you know, so that's what we do. And that's, you know, at the end of the day, when we bring people on here, like guests and everything, you know, it's people, they've been through it and they're still going through it. But if we can help people, then we're doing our job. Mark, thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care.